Hey everyone, Lisa Gifford here, and welcome to another block of the month. And I am Lisa Gifford with Martelli, and we are doing month 9 of our Tealing Good block of the month. We only have one more month to go, and I think this is our last month of sewing blocks. And then next month we'll be putting the whole thing together. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So the next class is going to be in October, and the date for that, I'm going to go ahead and pull that up real quick so I can take a look. I should have got that done earlier. October, the last Tuesday of October. So we're looking at October the 29th. October the 29th is when we will be doing our very last class of our block of the month. And I'm working on something. I still got to talk to the powers to be, but I think you're going to really like what we're going to do. All right, so let's go over a little bit. Let's take a minute and let's take a look at the blocks that we have done so far, because all the blocks that we've done all the way up through the 8 months is all the blocks have been our 12.5-inch blocks. And then today we're going to be doing our border blocks. So let's walk over to our design wall and we'll kind of do a recap of everything that we have gone so far. So just follow me along. We're going to go over here. I got them all laid out like we've been doing every month, getting everything all laid out. I can't see on this one, so let me see if I can get this one turned on. I'm going to try to get a monitor on real quick so I can see this one. Bear with me. Maybe it'll work now. Hold on. Trying to get my last monitor on. Okay, yep, it's coming up. All right, so here we are for all of the blocks that we have done so far. From January all the way through August of the last month. All right, so January we started off, we had to make 5 blocks. We made block 1. This was block 1. We only had to make 1. This is actually the very center piece of the entire quilt. So this was block 1, and we did this one in January, and we learned techniques mainly of half square triangles and a lot of flying geese. And I think, and this one right here, this hourglass block that's here in the middle. And then we went into, also in January, we had to make 4 of block number 8. So we made 4 of these. So here this one here, that was our entire January. We made 5 blocks in the month of January. Going into February, I've got block 2 and block 7. We had to make 4 of block 2 and we had to make 4 of block 7. So we were learning some techniques, some covered corners or stitch and flip. We did some hourglasses, and then we just added some solids. And then this one here, again, we had a 4 patch with a little stitch and flip, our flying geese, and just solid blocks. So good technique that we learned in February. Going into March, we had only 1 block we had to make, but we had to make 4 of them. So we did this 16 patch, and then I believe we did some stitch and flip here, cut it in half, and then put it all together. So we only had to make 4 of those. So March was pretty laid back in some of the blocks that we had to do. Then we're going into April. We made this block right here. So we learned block on point. We were making this center block, and we put it on point. We add our half square triangles here, solid block here, and of course our flying geese. This quilt was all about learning flying geese and getting that technique down. And we had to make 4 of those. So going into May, we had to make 8 blocks. We had a 5A and we had a 5B. So they were the exact same block, just had a mirror image that was done on mainly these corner pieces. I believe all the center was the same, and I think the change was here at these corners. So this was unique because we learned how to make these little tinier blocks and then had them on point. And then it's actually, I believe it was these 2 blocks and these 2 blocks, putting them together in this 4 patch, turned them, and then it made it onto point. So this was a really fun technique. And I think of all the blocks that we have done, and me and Margot were just talking about this earlier today, we thought that May was probably our absolute favorite block that we had made that month. My number 2 is probably the March block. I thought that one was kind of fun to do. But this was probably our absolute favorite one, was doing the May blocks A and B, and we had to make 8 that month. Then going into June, which that was a tough month for me, but we had this block here. We actually didn't get this one until July, but this was our June block. And again, we have our flying geese here, here, And then we had this where we just, I believe these are all just half square triangles that we had put together and just in the way that they were turned. So that one was a lot of fun, and we had to make 4 of the month of June. Then going into July, another tough month for me, but we got it done. We've got flying geese here in the center, a solid strip on top, and then again this one here in our A and B, it's just they were made the exact same way. We just flipped the geese the opposite direction, because if I was to turn this, these were all laid out the exact same, we just turned them. So that's how 9A and 9B went together. Very fun, very easy to do. Then last month, going into August, we had again these rows of these flying geese. We had a 10A and a 10B. The exact same thing as what we had done here, where we'd flipped the geese into opposite directions. But then we had the mirror image going on here at the top pieces here, and then the bottom pieces were the exact same, but also in a mirror image. So that one was an absolute lot of fun. So I actually have the ones, I got my samples already made for our block 12A and B, 13A and B, and block 11. So I'm going to grab these. I'm going to take them with me over there to our cutting table, and we will start going over all of these blocks together. I'm all caught up, so I just have to make all of these today. And then we'll be putting all of this together. So we're going to start by looking at all the fabrics that we had to get out. So the fabrics that we had this month were, we pulled from fabric A, C, D, E, F, H, I, N, O, R, and T. And then to finish out blocks 12A and B, we had again A and O. And then blocks 13A and B, we had Q and T. So those are all the fabrics that we pulled together to get this ready. So just like all of them, you had to get them all pressed, all ironed, and ready to go to do all of our cutting. So mainly we were cutting all of our strips, and then we were sub-cutting all of them. So the template that I found using the most in all of my sub-cutting was my 3.5-inch square, our 4-inch square, and then our 3.5 by 6.5. So these are the templates that I use the most in creating, I think pretty much all of it, in creating all of the blocks that I have here all ready to go. So let's take a look and see where we are. Oh, and I forgot to say thank you everybody for joining me. It's going to be a great class. And then I cannot wait for next month, because we're going to be putting it all together. And then we'll be talking about the new block of the month that's coming up, which is absolutely beautiful. I've kind of looked at it before I get deeper into this one. I have it over there, and I ought to go grab it. And I was looking at it. It's a pretty good size quilt. I think it's a little bit less fabric that we had in this one. I was trying to pull together what templates we would need. But it seems to be maybe more of a simpler, as in simpler for a block of the month. Looks like our finished blocks are going to be mainly 10.5 inches and 9.5 inches, or unfinished before we put them into the quilt. Hold on just a second. I'm going to go grab the papers. I think I have them right here. I can easily get to them. So what I was going to grab, because I can't even remember what it was called. Oh, Lord, where did I put them? I might have them in the drawer, because I was looking at all of the different sizes. I might have placed them in here. I'm looking, maybe it's right here. Here it is. All right, so the block of the month is called Mystic Vineyard. Yep, got it right here. It is also a 10-month program. Well, actually, it's a 9-month block. So this one was 10, so this one's going to be done in September. So it's a 9-month program. We're going to start it in January. And it's called Mystic Vineyard, and she's got it pulled up right there. It's absolutely beautiful. It's all batiks, and it's gorgeous in purples and greens, and they're just stunning fabrics. Next week, I will probably be starting to get all the kits put together. I was kind of going through and trying to figure out the templates that we would need to have. A lot of you probably already have. If I remember correctly, I was seeing 3 inches, 4 inches. There were a couple oddball sizes that were in it in creating this one here. But But it looks like, as for, you know, with this one that we had done, this one here, the main technique that we were learning was the flying geese technique, and of course half square triangles. This one here, as I was kind of going through some of the different blocks that we'll be making, it seemed to be the largest technique was half square triangles. So there's a lot of half square triangles that I saw that's in this one here. So that's what I saw mainly on this one. Of course, just like the other one, you'll be getting all of your, you'll get the two different patterns. You'll have the pattern where it will be the block of the month program, but then you'll also have the full pattern if you want to just make the whole project, the whole kit version. I think I have that one in here too, block of the month, and then the final one I think is the kit version. I think I got down in here. Yep, the kit version. So you also will get the kit version in here. I'm just trying to simplify what rulers we might want to use. I saw that there was a 2 5/8 that seemed to be used a lot here. So if you don't have the seam allowance rulers, I thought that was one of the ones that you might want to be sure to get the seam allowance ruler. Going into month 9, I saw, or month 1, but lots of 4-inch squares, 3.5-inch squares seems to be the main majority. It looks like we're doing a lot of blocks that are half, like I said, the half square triangles. And throughout most of it, like block 1, where you're making 4 of them, it is a 10.5-inch unfinished. Month 2 is a 10.5-inch. Month 3 is a 10.5. Somewhere along the line, though, it changes from 10.5 inches to 9.5. And I want to say that's toward the end where we start seeing the 9.5-inch blocks. I'm trying to find month 8. I think it was 7 and 8 is where I saw the change go from 10.5 to 9.5 inches. Let's see, here is month 8, which is block 12, and it is, yeah, it is a 9.5-inch block, and that I think month 7 is also a 9.5-inch block. I gotta get this all laid out right. This is all upside down. 11 is a 9.5-inch block, so that's month 7. Month 6 are 10.5-inch blocks. So I guess just the last 2 months of sewing, which is going to be 7, 8, they're 9.5-inch blocks, and pretty much all the other blocks are 10.5 inches. But it looks like a lot of fun. It makes a good size quilt. This one here is 97 by 106. In comparison to the one that we're doing right now, this one here, the one that we're on, is 98 by 102. So it's just a little bit different. Let's see, again, let's go back to 97 by 106. That's the Mystic Vineyard. And this one here is 98, 1 inch wider by 102. So this one's the next one is actually 4 inches longer. So they're pretty similar in size. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm trying to get it all pulled together on what we're going to do, how we're going to present it, what tools or templates you might want to add to it. So we're trying to get all that together. I got all the fabrics in, and like I said, they're absolutely gorgeous. That's what's coming up. So let's take a step back. All right, so going back into where we are here, into the fabrics that you needed. Let's start with fabric A. So fabric A, you had, they were all fat quarters. A, D, H, Q, and R were fat quarters. C, E, F, I, and N were a fat eighth, which was a 9 by 21 inch strip. Fabric O was a half yard. Fabric T was a third yard. So going into looking at fabric A, we had to cut that one down into 4-inch strips, and we cut a bunch of 4-inch squares, and then we had some 3.5-inch strips, and we subcut those into the 3.5 by 6.5-inch rectangles. So those were the two templates I used on that one. Fabric C, E, and N were all cut into 4-inch strips and 4-inch squares. Fabric D was cut in a 3.5-inch strip and subcut into the 3.5 by 6.5, and we all know by now the 3.5 by 6.5-inch blocks were all the basics for our flying geese. Our 3.5-inch squares became the parts or components to the flying geese. The 4-inch squares seemed to be turned into half square triangles. So going into H was 4-inch squares and 3.5-inch squares. I was 3.5-inch squares. O was 4-inch squares and 3.5-inch squares. And then Q was 3.5 by 6.5 inches, the rectangles, and then 3.5-inch squares. R was cut into 3.5-inch squares. T was into 3.5 by 6.5-inch rectangles and 3.5-inch squares. So those were all the cutting. I've got most of them all laid out right here in front of me. And I've labeled all of them. So that was one of the main things that I found myself doing a lot of, was labeling all of my pieces so they just don't get lost in the shuffle. So one of the main things that I found a very big help was getting these smaller little Post-it notes and having lots of clips, because I clipped them on. I tried pinning them, and that, it was easier for me just to clip them onto the little Post-it notes. Tried just having them stuck on there. Well, then, if you slap something down, the paper will fly off. So I was always clipping. I don't have this one clipped, but I always was clipping everything that I had cut. So when I did my cutting, if I labeled them, this is my 4-inch, I put the O on here, and then I also did an O for my 3.5 inches. So I labeled everything as I went and just went through lots of Post-it notes. All right, so the first order of getting everything, what you got? Everything all cut, iron pressed, ready to go. So now we're going to start doing our piecing. So the first thing that we're going to be piecing together, I believe, is our block 11. So this is block 11, and it's a long one. You will be making 4 of these. So I'm going to try to get it in the orientation. So this is block 11, and it measures out to be 3.5 by 60.5 inches. So this is block 11. All of our components that we're going to be making today will create this long strip. And if you'll notice, here's our center, and then we work out from either side. At least that's how I saw it, because it's a mirror image. So you got your center, and then these two, and then these two are the same, and then these two. You're just kind of working out all the way out from the center. So it's a mirror image on each end from the center block on each side. So you'll be making 4 of these. And if you haven't already guessed, from what I can see in the layout of the quilt, they're going to be on the top, the bottom, and the side. And then we're going to be putting pieces on these to give it the length once we get our center done. So we'll be making 4 of those. Then we also have, that we're making today, is block 12A and block 12B. And just like all of our A's and B's, they are always a mirror image. So here is A. Here's block A. So it's just solid pieces with a half square triangle. Same thing for the B, in just the opposite layout. So that's 12. So we're making 2 of A's and 2 of B's of number 12. And then 13 is the same thing, just a little bit different, actually a little bit shorter. So this one is 13A. So you got your 2 solid pieces, and then you've got your half square triangle on one end. And then 13B, you've got your 2 solid pieces. Looks like your T and your Q, and then your half square triangle that you'll be making on the opposite end. So it's pretty simple. And again, you're just making 2 of 13A and 2 of 13B. So those went together pretty quick. It looked more complicated than what it actually was. It goes together pretty quickly. All right, so let's start. It tells us that we're supposed to be going to line item 3 under month 9. We're supposed to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of all of our fabrics, H, O, and R 3.5-inch squares. So that would be these. Here's my H, here's my R, and my H, O, and R. So all of our 3.5-inch squares gets the half. You draw the line down the center on the diagonal on all of those. And then I think you just set those aside, because those are going to be part of your flying geese a little bit later. And then you go to your 4-inch squares of your F and O. On the wrong side of all the 4-inch squares are F and O's. So that would be these, the 4-inch. and the 4-inch. You're drawing a diagonal line on these also. They're asking us to draw 2 lines. Well, you can draw the single line, draw on both sides, or you can draw the single line, but I'm going to use the seam line tape that I have on my machine because it just kind of works very well without having to draw all the lines. So now we're going to start matching up the fabrics with the ones that we have drawn our lines on with the ones that we haven't. So to start with Unit 1A, we have to take the 4-inch squares of the O units and the C units. So here's my C. Here's my 4-inch C. And we mix that with the O. So let me grab my 4-inch O. And that's this one right here. And this will make Unit 1A. So I'm going to go ahead and put these right sides together. I'm going to put my label on it because when we make our half square triangles, it actually gives us 2. So we repeat that 4 times and then we will get 8 units. So we'll sew that one up. I'm going to pull together all of our half square triangle units and we'll do them all at the same time. So that one's going to be Unit 1A, and then Unit 1B is where we take our 4 O units and 4 N. So again, we're grabbing our 4-inch O's and we're grabbing our N. Gotta find my N. Here's my N. So we take the O and the N, doing the same thing, placing them right sides together. Of course, with the batiks, it's always a little hard to figure out what side is what. This one's going to be our Unit 1B when we get it sewed up. Next, we're going to look at Unit 1C. Unit 1C is where we take our 4-inch E and F. So here's my 4-inch E, and here's my 4-inch F. And we are going to put these together, right sides together, and just like this. We're going to sew these up, and this will be Unit 1C. Unit 1D. Unit 1D is again another F. So we take our F, and we are mixing that with an H, a 4-inch H. So here's our 4-inch H. And you're going to put these right sides together. There's right side and right side. And we're going to sew these into our half square triangles. And then we're going to go into Unit 1E. It's an A and an O. So here's our A and our 4-inch O. And they are very similar in color. You can hardly tell them apart. I actually have one already made, but I'm going to go ahead and put these together. And this one is Unit 1E. So let me go ahead and draw that on here. U1 and lowercase e. And we'll clip this on here. And those are the half square units that we're going to be doing. So that's basically going through of line item 3 all the way through 4. So let's go over to the sew machine and let's get all of these sewed up. So we're going to get the A, B, C, D, E for the Unit 1s. Get these all done, and then we'll move on to our next section. Any questions out there? Everybody good? Hey, Aunt Peggy, how you doing? How's Uncle Ben? I meant to call you Monday, and I totally forgot. Hope he's doing good. All right, so let's get started on getting these half square triangle units done. So with this one, I set up my machine to be where my needle is in center on here. And then I'm just going to follow the little line on here to get my sewing done for the half square triangles. So I'm going to kind of place this. I want to keep it kind of tagged, keep a label on here. I'm kind of moving it over a little bit so it's not going to be in the way of being sewn. Because we're going to sew a 1/4 inch down the center, a 1/4 inch from the center over. So I'm just going to follow the line that I have on here. So I have it set by using the seam tape. I have it centered where the red line is my center. But my point is going to be running along this 1/4 inch line as I sew it all the way down. So whatever your preferred method is for doing your half square triangles is what you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stitched down here. And then we're going to flip it around. I'll get my little leader off of here. And we're going to go ahead and stitch down the other side. So you're going to do that 4 times to make your unit 1Es, because you need to have 8 of those. For every one that you do, it gives you 2. So here is the D unit. Again, get my little paper out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and just chain piece all of these together real quick. Double check, make sure your fabric's lined up before you start. Flip these around and get to the other side. Right. So our next step is we're going to go ahead and press these apart, or cut these apart. So we're going to cut right down the center. Then we're going to press them open, and then we're going to trim them up to 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to cut from corner to corner, right down the center. You can use your rotor cutter, you can use your regular scissors just to get this all ready. But as I cut them, then I'm going to go ahead and clip it, because I'm trying to keep them all together. so I hear we got a storm out there. Anybody in the path of this storm that's a coming? I hope not. I think I have some friends down there in Ocala. Greg, I don't know if you're watching. I think he's going to be close to it. I think I have some family that lives in Jacksonville, in Tallahassee. Yeah, it looks like it's a big storm. It's kind of weird how they were doing this one, because they were tracking it long before we even had a low out there, so that was a little bit different. Putting these all together so I don't lose who you are. Alright, so now we got these all done. Let's go over to our pressing station. Let's get all of these pressed nice and flat. And we'll come back over here and we'll trim them all up to, trim them down to 3.5 inches. Alright, let's start with our A. I think I got them out of order. B, A, here we go. Going to use my block press for this one, probably use the smaller one. So finding which one is the darker of them, I like to kind of, well, I do two things. I like to first set my seam. So just kind of set the seam in there. It makes it easier to gently roll it back. Give it a finger press without stretching it or pulling it. And then press toward the dark side. So I have the seam going towards the dark side. Trying to follow the grain of the fabric. I don't have any really, I have bias there in the center, just being very careful just not to distort it, but we will be trimming it up. But I still don't like to distort the block. So when I am doing my pressing, I'm trying to make sure I'm always following the grain of the fabric. So that is my A. So I'm going to set that there. I'm going to go with my B's next. Flipping it to the darker side. I'm going to set the seam. Gently roll it back. Before I set them under, I'm going to go ahead and grab the A's and get those clipped. Set the B's under. And now we're going to find our C's. And even though you're seeing me just doing 2, you're going to be doing 8. Just going to get the B's connected. And I got a little crease right here in this fabric. So I'm going to hit that with a little bit of steam. See if I can get that crease out of there. That's just part of what you see on the batik. I guess I didn't get that pressed well. Sometimes you get these little creases in the batik fabrics. There, that got that all nice. Got that out of there. So now we're going to set that under our block press. So let's move on to D. Choosing my darker side up. Set my seam. Roll it back. Pressing with the grain. This is C's. And last are E's. Choosing the darker side. And roll it back. Now let's finger press it, then roll it back. The seam don't want to go with me. Nice and flat. And here's our E's. All right, so let's go over to the cutting table. We're going to go ahead and get these all trimmed down to our 3.5 inches. This is where I like to use my 3.5 inch block again. I'm going to start with my A's. To use the Martelli template for squaring up just makes it so much easier. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the points, opposite points, and you're going to set them onto the seam. They'll be right there at the seam. And now I see where I need to trim around all the way around. So I'll get rid of all of my dog ears and it will be a perfect 3.5 inches when we get done. And you're going to do this to all of the pieces. So you're going to get your little pile of little slivers going on. So I'm putting the point right there at the center of the seam on both ends, opposite ends. I just got a little bit to go around. And then I put my label back on here. Unit 1A. Let's pull out B. I'm just going to repeat that. Any questions out there for me? Everybody good? Anybody got some plans for the weekend? I think we got some festival going on downtown Pensacola. Can't remember what it was though. Curtis was telling me about it. We just had a lionfish festival recently. Apparently we have a lot of lionfish because I think it's the second time I think they've done it this year. Invasive species in our Gulf. B. Now we're going to get our C's done. Again, lining up the point onto the seam. I don't know if she can show you, but how close that it's, I mean, it's right there, right how you want your blocks to look. So easy, so you'll have perfect seam allowances when you go to sew these together, perfect points by taking the time and trimming it up and making sure that that is right there in the center. There is our C unit. All right, D's. One more. And now we're going to have our last one of the half square triangles, and that is our unit 1Es. There's this one and one more to go. That finishes all of our half square triangles with our 4-inch squares. So I just have everything all set over here. So let's move it on to see what our next step is. So I think we moved down to line item 5. We're going to now, I guess we're going to start making some of our flying geese. So these are going to grab our D's, which is this one right here. You're going to be making 8 of these flying geese. So I need my D's and my 3.5-inch O units. And that's these right here. So you're going to need 2 for every D. So I'm just going to put these right here. And this is going to make unit 2A. So let me go ahead and write me a label. This is unit 2A. U2A. That's what this one's going to be. So you'll be making 4 of these. And then unit 2B is the T, which is our 3.5-inch by 6.5-inch T. And you'll be getting our 3.5-inch R's. So you need 2 of those. One for each side. So put those on here. And this one's going to make unit 2B. Put that one on here. And then unit 2C. And okay, you make 8 of unit 2As. You make 8 of unit 2Bs. But you only make 4 of the unit 2C. So you're going to grab your A, 3.5 by 6.5. And you're going to grab 2 of your 3.5-inch H squares. These are all starting to disappear on me. This is unit 2C, so that's what I have right here, unit 2C. So you're making 4 of these. So we'll go to sewing machine, get those done. And I think that is all of our flying geese here. Then we go to, and then we got some more, a little bit more sewing. I think it's half-inch triangles we need to make for, I think we've already done them. Yeah, the unit 1Es. Yeah, we've already made those. So I should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got the unit 1Es all here. Because these are used for blocks 12A and B and 13A and B. All right, so let's go ahead and get all of our flying geese. Again, we're making, of the 2As, we're making 8 of them. I'm just making 1 set today. And then we're making the 2Bs, 8 of those, and 2Cs. I think I already have an A and B already here. And I'm needing to make the Cs. All right, so let's go ahead and get these all sewed up real quick. So our setup on the machine is a little bit different on this one. Instead of having our needle in the center, I'm putting it back on my 1/4 inch. And if you are doing the scant quarter, be sure to move your needle over to that position that you've been doing all along. And we're going to go ahead and start putting all these together. So I'm going to kind of pin, I don't know how I'm going to clip this on here. First, I think I could do it on the center, on the side that's like in the middle. I think it might fit right there. We'll see in a minute, see if it doesn't get in the way. All right, so you're going to place your, let's set this aside. Right sides together. And so you're going to roll this back. I'm trying to figure out which direction I start on first. Let's just roll back here. We want it to be here. Start on the side. I think we want, I think that, again, it's back in the center. I do apologize if we have this in the center, not at the 1/4 inch. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and stitch it down. And you're going to want to make sure that when you fold it back that all of your edges line up nice and neat here. This is crucial so that everything matches up and lines up. And that's pretty darn close. So we're just going to keep this together because we got to iron that and clip it and trim it before we move on to the other side. Right sides together. I'm going to check it before we move on. Make sure everything's lining up right along the edges, just like that. Put these together and we will move on to the next one. It's going to be our A. We've already done C, B. Now we're going to do A. If you were drawing your line, you'd be sewing on your line. And we're going to check. And right where we need for it to be. All right, so let's go get these ironed, trimmed, and then we'll be putting the other side on. So let's go over to the ironing station. Making quick work of it today. Just trying to keep all of my pieces together. So we're going to set that seam, and then we're going to gently roll it back. Press it, sticking with the grain of the fabric. And I'm going to lay that right there underneath the press. Going to B unit. Set the seam, roll it back. It's an A. And then C. And that's our B. And now our C. All right, so let's go get these trimmed, and then we'll get the other side of our flying diesel done. So you could clip these with your scissors, or you could go ahead and use your rotary cutter to trim it away 1/4 inch from the edge of that seam. Got to turn it away from me so I can get that. So I'm just kind of lining it up on here, about 1/4 inch away. It's not rocket science. Just going to trim away that excess material so that it all's nice and neat. And last one. All right, so we've just got the other side to do. And then we'll have this one done. So I'm just lining up my fabric along the edges. And we're going to get the other side set. right, got these all done. So all we have left is to press these back, trim them, and then we'll see what our next step is. Starting with a unit. Set the seam. I'm going to roll it back, making sure everything lines up nice and pretty. And just what I wanted it to do. So we're going to go ahead and set it. And put that underneath my block press. Good job. And one more. Okay, so then all those will be go trimming those back, and then we're going to find out what our next step is. So that should be all of those. Again, you're going to be doing 8, 8, and 4 to get all of these ready to go. So let's trim these back. Here's our C. Here's our B. Just kind of eyeballing it. And here is our A unit. All right, flying geese are complete. So let's see what the book tells us to do. All right, so that was all the way through item 6. So now we're going to go to next page. It says, referring to block 11 diagram below, arrange 2 fabrics, 3.5-inch squares, 2 each. So let's see. All right, so we're going to start, I guess we'll start putting everything, we're going to start laying everything out. I think when I laid it out, I kind of like did it in pairs. So here's all of my units that are all sewed together. And if I remember correctly, I'm not going to be needing the U1Es because they are going to be used for when we do blocks 12, the 12 and the 13 blocks. So I'm going to just go ahead and set those up there. So here are my solid pieces that I have left over because I know we're going to be using some of these 3.5 and by 6.5. The Qs are going to be in the 13A and 13, the 12 and 13 blocks, and the 3.5s are over there. The T's that I have left over are over there. And I think that's it. So I got those all set aside for there. So what do I have left of the fabric that we haven't used? So it looks like I have some R's. I don't know why I had a couple extra R's, but it looks like it's just the I's. So the I units is what we're going to be using to create this long block. So it starts off with unit, the smaller unit of the half square triangles. So we'll go to unit 1A. So here's my D, C, B, and A. So we're going to grab an A. So knowing that 1A is on one side, the A, this one is going to be on the other side. So I'm just going to kind of put these in pairs. So we put together unit 1A and then unit 2A, our flying geese. And then I have my other flying geese here. So if you're looking at the layout of the long block that we have here, you have a unit 1A, 2, and you have the geese pointing down. The geese pointing down, looking on both sides, opposite ends. You have the unit 1A on opposite sides, and the dark is going towards the outside. So that here is my pair. So I'm going to place this here, right sides together, and I'm going to clip it because that's where I'm going to be sewing, is here. And then I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do the same thing. So it's my unit 1A and unit 2A. Double checking, making sure I got it going down, and then this dark is on the edge going down. So I'm going to place these right sides together where I'm going to be stitching. And I'm going to put a clip right there in that spot. That's telling me that's my sew line on these two right here. Now I'm going to look at the unit 1B and I. So the unit 1B is the half square triangle units. And I've got them on opposite ends. And on this unit, the light colored is pointing in on each side. And we're attaching that to the I blocks, which is just the solid block. So it's here, and the mirror image is here. I got a little crease right there. So it's here and here. So it's these two, looking at U1B, and the eyes are here and here. So I'm going to place this over top of this one. I'm going to clip it here. And I'm going to put this one, same thing. I'm going to clip it here. Double check, 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 and put a clip here. This is where I'm sewing, this is where I'm sewing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 in. So now we're going to go to the next two. So I got unit 2B, so that's these right here with the dark triangle. Unit 2Bs. Looking how this one is, now I've got it pointing up on opposite ends. And we're going to put a unit 1C on each opposite side. So let's get the unit 1Cs. That's these right here. And we have the dark going away. So on the right side, or on the left side, it looks like this. On the right side, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be like this. So it's like it's our mirror image, looking at U2B, U2B, and U1C and U1C. So there's my mirror image here. So this is going to be sewed together here. If I'm not mistaken, these should nest up right here. I'm going to put my clip here and here. And I'm putting my clip right here. So there's my stitch line, there's my stitch line. Now we're going to grab unit 2C. And now we're going to grab our unit 1Ds. They are going to go on each side of this one. So this needs to be turned where the arrow, the geese, is pointing down. And the dark edges are going to be on the upper quadrant. So it's going to be forming this V, kind of like with the dark. And the light is pointed away. So you got the geese pointing down and the lights are pointing away. So you're going to stitch one on one side and then you're going to stitch one on the other side. And that's our center for our big 11. Clip it here. and put a clip here. There's our stitching. So here's all of our sewing right off the bat. All of our sewing all done, and then we go to put these components together. So I started from the bottom. So I know that this here is my A's, our first segment. This is my second segment. I have my third segment, and then center. I'm just going to kind of keep them in that orientation. All right, so let's get these all sewed up. And I'm going to set this here. I'm going to put them back in order. These here and here. And we're going to start with our A's, the first grouping. So we're just going to go back to our 1/4 inch seam allowance, and if you are doing the scant quarter, be sure to move your needle over. And we're going to stitch down all the places on all of these, just chain piece them all the way through in the order of how I laid it all out. Y'all got that? Okay. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Lining up my edges, and we're going to start stitching. Not having to match up anything with this one here. This one you can actually kind of nest the seam on this segment where you're putting it with the T. Should nest right in there if you pressed all to the dark side. Here is our center unit. So we're going to be sewing one side and then spinning it around and get the other side sewed. All right, so let's go get all these pressed, and then we'll start putting the segments together. So I'm going to try to keep everything together. They might still get turned around a little bit. I don't think there's a right or wrong direction on this one here. Trying to think on how I want that pressed, because they're the opposite ends. Well, we're just going to press. You might have to change it. I got a little crinkle in this block here, so I'm going to remove that. Hopefully it doesn't distort the block too much. A little crease in the batik. Another crease in the batik, right here. I think it's a characteristic of batiks to get these little creases in it when they're in the dyeing process, I guess. Look how pretty that seam allowance is right there, right, real pretty point. That turned out real nice. Can't say that they're all like that, but we try, right? Well, that one turned out good too. I think because it nested. I think that was the nesting ones. You could actually feel them kind of nesting there. All right, now here is our middle blocks, so I'm just going to press them both away from the center. All right, so now we're going to go lay this back out and do our next section of sewing these up, and then we'll have the whole strip done. So here's my center, so I'm going to go ahead and set center here, following the photo. Then we're going to grab the units, and I believe it is with the T going up and this one going up. So we have the center one going down and this one going here. I got these here and here. Then I've got these here. So we've got the eyes here and here. So then that leaves with it the units, the 1A and the unit 1A and the unit 2A. So you just got to get the right orientation for it. So this one goes on this end, and then this one goes with the geese pointing down on this end. So these two line up here, and it's creating this line here, this diagonal here. So I'm going to sew these together on the end. And on the opposite end, creating a diagonal. Put a clip at that point. Now we're going to sew these two goes to this unit here. So this one goes here. You're going to be able to nest that seam right there. And then this one is going to go on the other side and nesting that seam right here. So one clip here. We got 3 stitches. Right. Moving right along, right? I know when we get to 12 and 13, they go pretty quickly too. So I'm going to readjust, realign this up. Get everything nice and straight. This one. And then get both of these on here. You have a little seam that you can nest in right here. get the other side sewed. Nesting that seam in there. Holding that in place. And stitching that down. All right. We'll get these all pressed back, and then we'll attach the last two pieces to the center. So starting with the center piece, I'm going to press them away. And again, this was a seam that nested really good. So you got a nice point here, and should have the exact same thing on the other side. There we go. Really nice. All right, then we get these two done. I think this one goes this way. I could be wrong. Have it going with the eye. I thought the eye was here. Trying to remember the direction that I had it going. And this one's going to go the opposite way. Is these two here. This one, this one, this one. You can always change the direction of your seams once you get it all laid out. All right, let's go figure out the layout, and then we'll get this all put together. Just got 2 more stitches to do for this row. So the eye unit goes here, and this one goes on this side, and this one goes on this side. Following the photo, this one goes here, and this will go on this end. I'm going to clip this one on, double checking it. This one's up, this is down. Here and here, up, down. And that's where I was looking at which direction the geese were going. All right, so we're going to get these 2 stitched, and then we'll get it repressed. Then we'll start with our last 2 blocks that we got to do. Well, 4, but it's just A and B's. Repositioning. Let's do that again. Okay. Should be all together, and it should be that 60.5 inches that we need it to be. So I'm pressing this one away from the point, from the flying geese. And the same on this side. Pressing it away. I'm going to lay it out, and I'm going to make it nice and straight all the way across. I don't want to inadvertently put a bow in it when I give it a good press. So I'm kind of staying about the same distance from the edge of my mat. So I can give it one good final press. Just a little bit too big to put under even my big block press. So we know it's 3.5 inches, but I still like to do a check to make sure. I believe it's supposed to be 60.5. Let's see how close we are. I am 60.5. Good deal. So this one's all done. So let's go finish up our A and B's of 12 and 13. I think they're pretty simple because we already got the one section done when we sewed our Unit 1Es. So when those were all done, the Unit 1Es are here in this block. So that's the only sewed section. And then everything else is just taking the solids and putting them together. So looking at block 12A, you're going to be making 2 of them. You need a 3.5 by 6.5 Q. And it looks like you need 2 for the A's, because you're making 2 of the A's, 2 of the B's. So I'm going to grab 2 of them for here, and here's my 2 for the B for the 13. So here's for my 12 units. And again, I've got these crazy creases that are in here. Been getting creases in your fabrics? I think I always thought I ironed it out, but now it doesn't look like I did. So we're going to ignore it, and we're just going to move on. All right, so we're going to take our Q's. And it's the mirror image, so I'm just going to lay it all out here like this. And then we're going to grab our T units. So I need 2 of them here, and I'm going to need 2 of them up there. So the T's are our really dark ones. And after making so many of these blocks, you get to kind of recognize them and what letter they are. I know that my T's are the darkest ones. I think my N's, I think, are the lightest ones. So I'm getting my mirror. And now we have the sewn block. So I need 2 of them. I'm going to set 2 for the 13s. So now we're going to look at the direction of where the darker part is going to be. So on my top unit right here, TQ, I have it here. And on this bottom one, the B, the dark is on the top in the opposite direction. I just have one more block to add to this. And now it's our Q. Our 3.5 inch square Q's are also on here. So this one goes here, and this one goes here. So this is our 13 unit. Trying to think would be the best way to put this together. I would think just sewing these all together. And it doesn't matter on sewing all the T's because they flip it either way. And then this one here. my clips on the sides I gotta sew. Oh, and I messed up on this one, I think. Right off the bat. This one goes here. This one goes here. Sewing, sewing, and then sew all of these. So let's get the 12 done. And get all of our T units sewed on. So I'm looking again, right sides together. We're not going to press in between on this one. We are going to lay it out, get it sewed, and then we'll press it. So we got a T going, pressing it to the dark side, just going to finger press to the dark side on these. So we know that these are opposite. And then we just got to get these in the right position. Pressing these toward the light fabric on this one because it doesn't have any seams that we're fighting. So we just got to be sure we get the orientation right. So this one goes here, and that means this one goes here. And double checking. All right, so we're going to sew these up. This is going to be our 12A and 12B. How's everybody doing out there? Everybody good? Good, good. So let's get these pressed, and our 12 units will be done. I'm just going to let it go in the way that at least fights the seams. If I can get that wrinkle out right there. So this one goes together pretty quick because you don't have but one block in it that you've sewed. Everything else is just fabric that you've cut. The same thing here. I'm going to go let this lay out in the way without fighting any seams from the block that's pieced. And then on the end, I'm pressing towards the dark. Big crease right here. Let's see if we can get that out. That one don't want to budge. Okay, the 12 units are done. So let's go for it. Lay them out so you'll look at them. This one here is block 12A. And I've got my 12As over here. So let's clip them together. Block 12 Yep, this one is 12. I might got something wrong. Hold on. Yes, I do, unless goes this way. Oh, I got this one upside down. Let me take a look at my B, see if I got it wrong. All right, so I got the B right, but my 12A on my first sample is upside down. I'm going to show you. So here's my two 12Bs. They are correct. So this is 12B. Here's the 12A that I just did, where I've got the darker on the top here. I'll just leave it on the mat. So it's right here on the mat. Here's where I had made one yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And this one is wrong. So I've got to change this one right here. This one's correct. This one is wrong. So we are going to put something there. I know I got to fix that. And it is, this one's correct. This one, I'm getting confused. This one's correct. This one is wrong. So that's the one I got to change. And this is my 12A. This is my B's. This is my A. So we're going to click that one. So here's my A and B. And that yellow right there is a big old sign for me that that is not correct. All right, so let's go to our 13. Let's see if I got those right. Oh my goodness. All right, so I've made a 13A and a 13B. 13A is just like the photo. So 13A is correct. 13B, let me see. 13B is good. I got 13A and 13B correct. All right, so let's just replicate that. It's always good when we catch it before we sew it in a whole quilt, right? All right, so let's get the layout. It's just getting these in the right position. So this one's up, the dark is up, the dark is up. We got our Q's in the middle, Q in the middle, up and away on both ends, and then we have our T's on each end. So that is all of our components right there. So we'll clip this to here, clip this to here, clip here, and clip here. And something fell off. Holy cow, it fell off. I guess I didn't clip it right. Which one is which? This is A. So this must be B. Dark here, clip here. There, now we got it. All right, we're going to sew both sides of these. And then we'll have this one done. My clips went. Let's get this pressed. And then we'll have this one all done. Set that seam. This one's getting pressed to the dark side on this one. But this was going to be pressed into here, so I'm not fighting that seam. I'm going to lay that on there. That way it can get all nice and flat. Same here, pressing towards the darker on this one here. And then we're going to flip it around. Well, we're going to keep it from fighting the seams on the block. And we'll lay this under here. Again, I have another little seam. This funny thing about batiks, these little creases. See if I can get that out. All right, so let's go check these out, make sure we got everything the way we want it, and then we'll have the 13 A and B's done. All right, so here is our B unit, and it's identical to the one I did earlier. So these are done. And here is our 13A, and it matches that one. So these are done. So that pretty much finishes all of our sewing except my big boo-boo that I have to fix. These had to measure 3.5 by 12.5. So let me make sure we got that going good. We already know it's 3.5, and we are right at the 12.5. So that's good on this one. Good on this one. So the 13 A and B's are where they need to be. The 12 A and B's had to be 3.5 by 15.5. Right at it. Let's do these individually. This one's right on the money, and this one, and I'm doing all my seams at a scant quarter. So this one's right where I need for it to be. So the B blocks are good. Just got one little change I need to do. 12 A's and B's. So I'm just going to rip the stitches. Got to rip the seam out, rip the seam out. I'm going to repress it, and then I'm just going to turn that block around because there's just no easy way to do that. So we'll just do that at a later date. I'll have that all ready before we get to sewing all of this together coming up. Okay, so that is everything on month 9 of our Tealing Good block of the month. So I think that's all of our sewing of all the blocks. I think we got it all done. So any questions? Everybody good? Up there? Let me see. I'm interested in the upcoming block of the month, the Mystic Vineyard. Had fun doing the Tealing Good. No, it's going to be fun. So we'll be doing the same thing like we're doing for this one. We will be meeting once a month, and it seems like the last Tuesday of the month seems to work for everything. Of course, it's recorded, so you can always go back and watch it at any time. And it's a little bit shorter. Instead of 10 months, it's 9 months. So if it's a project you want to have to make for somebody, you'd have it all done by the holidays. I really like it. I mean, as I was going through all the different things and components about it, it looked like it was a little bit, I don't think I saw any flying geese in there. Not to say that there isn't, but it looks like most of it's half square triangles. So it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I just got to get it all figured out, how much the fabric is, and we'll probably introduce it, probably if not the first fabric sale in October, but maybe the second, by the second fabric sale in October. So let's see what the date of that is. Don't have my phone. Hold on. I think it's going to be October the 10th. That's what I'm hoping to have everything ready by the October the 10th for the pre-sale of that one. Yeah, that's the second one. So October 10th is when we should be starting to show all all the, and that is a birthday. That is my granddaughter's birthday, October 3rd. So yeah, that's when we're going to be doing the pre-sales of the Mystic Vineyard, Mystic Vineyard. And then next month when we get together on October the 29th, we will be putting our whole thing together. Or maybe, we'll see. I might go ahead and just get it all done and have it ready for you and then talk about some other things. But, and I'll have it for sale. The Mystic Block will also be ready for that one. The Mystic Vineyard will be ready. All right, so if you have any questions, all you have to do is put them in the comments, because I will check the comments a little bit later on tonight. You can also reach out to me at learn@martellinotions.com. That is my email. But this one was a lot of fun. And I really like doing, I think this is, well, I've done a block of the month before, but not one on such a long says. I've done them before, but they're usually just like 4 or 5 months, nothing like this. So this one was a long one. But this was the first time that I've done a block of the month that's batiks. And so I really like the brightness of the color, the crispness of the fabric, and how well it easily cuts and irons. I don't like the little creases that show up that you think you got them all ironed out, but I really like working with batiks, so that's why we're going to try this next one. I am looking at another one coming a little bit later, but it's more in a neutral, it's more of a neutral palette, but what I really like about it is it would be one of those projects, and I think it was Kathy Delbon who had mentioned it. It would be one of those great quilts that you could do, and it would be absolutely stunning as a scrappy. So I think that might be the next one that we do after this Mystic. And it might be something that we might do it at the same time, because it's, I mean, I'll probably pick up some of the kits for it, but those of you who love to do it like a scrappy with what you have, I think that would be a lot of fun to go along with it, with this one that I'm looking at doing. So I just got to figure out all the particulars, but I know we're going to get this one done here because I got the most votes on this one, even though I had some of you say, oh, people don't do purple, they don't grow green, it's hard to match the color, but I had more votes on all the ones that I posted out there than any other, so that's why we went with this Mystic Vineyard, because it's just absolutely stunning. All right, so that is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Good to see you, Aunt Peggy. I'll call you in a little bit. I wanted to see how Uncle Ben is doing. I haven't heard from him in a little bit. But that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I promise I will get this one fixed as soon as we get off camera today. You all have a fantastic day. Have a great weekend, and you all stay safe and dry and warm, particularly safe if you got the storm in your way, wherever you are. Bye-bye, everybody. God bless.